We live in an age where cameras are just everywhere, on our phones, on our doorbells. They're capturing pretty much every moment of our lives. But what happens when they catch something that really shouldn't be there? Something that feels impossible? Well, today we're going to look at two really unsettling pieces of footage, two different cases where cameras allegedly captured something paranormal. And that really is the big question, isn't it? Can a camera lens and a digital sensor actually pick up on something our own eyes can't see? Can a piece of technology finally give us that solid proof of the supernatural? That one question is kind of hanging over everything we're about to dive into. All right, let's get right into it. We're going to break down two totally separate cases, and each one comes with its own piece of really chilling video evidence. I'm just going to show you what was recorded, lay out the story, and then, at the end, you can decide for yourself what you think is going on. Okay, so our first case, it starts out pretty normal, almost sweet. It's about a mother and her young daughter moving into a new home. But very quickly, the entire story gets focused on one single, very unsettling place, the little girl's playroom. So this is Jessica and her daughter. They're just starting fresh, setting up a new life in a new house. And for the little girl, the absolute center of her world was this new playroom. It's supposed to be a place for fun, for imagination, but it wasn't long before she started saying she wasn't playing in there by herself. And this is the sentence that kicked the whole thing off. The little girl just kept insisting to her mom, Jessica, that there was a man in the playroom with her. Of course, Jessica was concerned. She'd go check, and she'd find absolutely nothing and no one there. But her daughter didn't back down, which is what made Jessica decide to take a closer look at the room's security setup. And what that camera caught is, honestly, it's just bizarre. See, at her daughter's request, Jessica had put one of those little toy doorbell cameras on a tiny indoor playhouse, and it recorded three really strange, hard-to-explain things. First, you see the little door to the playhouse just swing open and then close, with nobody anywhere near it. Then, a doll that's sitting inside, its hair just kind of lifts up, like an invisible hand is touching it. And then, the weirdest part of all, a notification gets sent from the camera's app to Jessica's phone, and on it, you can hear this faint, whispering sound. Now, what's so fascinating here is how paranormal investigators would look at this. This is a textbook example of something they call object manipulation. It's basically when an object moves without any physical person or thing causing it to move. From that little door to the doll's hair, it really looks like some unseen force is interacting with the physical world. But even that doesn't explain the most haunting part of this whole case. I mean, a moving door and a doll's hair, that's one thing. But an intelligent, sound-based message that's sent through a digital app, that's a whole other level of strange. So the big question we're left with here is this. Who or what was whispering through that phone? Okay, let's switch gears and move on to our second case. This one takes us out of a private home and into a place that's very public, a daycare center. And listen, if the first case was kind of a slow, creepy burn, this one is just a sudden explosion of activity, with things happening one right after the other. So the story goes, this all went down in 2025 at a daycare, and the security cameras caught this absolutely terrifying sequence of events. It all starts when a child suddenly screams and just bolts out of a room. Literally seconds later, a huge, heavy playhouse in that exact same room just violently falls over, and it looks like nothing even touched it. Then, later footage shows that the main child safety gate, it just unlatches and swings open all by itself. And it all seemed to lead up to the owners having their own bizarre encounter near one very specific object in that room. So you're wondering, why did the child scream in the first place? Well, when they asked the poor kid, they said they saw a face. Not just a face in the room, but a face inside a mirror that was hanging on the wall. And just like that, this mirror became the dead center of this whole haunting. And here it is. This is the absolute core of the mystery. The security camera was pointed right at the room. It caught the child's reaction perfectly. It caught the massive playhouse tipping over. But a face in the mirror? The camera saw absolutely nothing. And this is where the story takes a very modern turn. The family that owned the daycare, they apparently just had enough. So the owner's daughter got on social media and did what anybody in the 21st century would do with a supposedly cursed object. She put an ad up on Facebook Marketplace to try and sell the haunted mirror. No joke. So where does that leave us? I mean, what are we supposed to make of all this? We've got two different recordings, two really unsettling stories, and absolutely zero easy explanations for any of it. Let's just lay out all the mysterious pieces, right? In that first case, you have objects moving on their own, and that super creepy whisper. In the second case, you've got this terrifying vision in a mirror, immediately followed by some really violent physical events. Now, a skeptic would probably say, hey, it could be a draft or static electricity or maybe a digital glitch in the doorbell app. For the mirror, they might suggest the child's mind was just playing tricks on them. It's a real thing called pareidolia, where our brains are wired to see patterns like faces even when they're not there. But do those explanations really cover everything we've seen here? Which, of course, brings us all the way back to where we started. Are we actually looking at genuine evidence of something paranormal here? Or are these just elaborate hoaxes and weird tricks of the camera? The footage is real, the stories have been told, but what you choose to believe, well, that's entirely up to you.